Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Here we are, yet another version of Talking Books and Writing and Stuff. That's our podcast. We enjoy it. I hope you do as well. Special guest today from out west, we have Candace Macphie. Candace is the author of, I think it's a 5-book series, but we'll get into that in a moment. And we're here to talk about book 1 in her Back in a Year series. But first of all, Candace, maybe you can just give us a little bit of your background, like where'd you grow up? And I know you're in Calgary now, and I understand you started in Montreal, but I guess there's a lot of a journey in between.
There sure is. I was born and raised in Montreal, English Montrealer, and I did what every English Montrealer, well, not every, majority. I moved to Toronto after I graduated university, and wanted to start a life there for myself, but I just couldn't make it click. It just didn't kind of work for me. So I packed it all in and left and just put stuff, much to my dad's chagrin, in his basement, and left with the backpack and said I'd be back in a year. But I came back 7 or 8 years later. So I traveled around the world, and then I lived for the rest of the time in London, and I worked all over the world. I worked in a global organization, and then was kind of missing home after a while and wanted to settle down, so came back home and settled in Calgary. So that's my geographic story.
Wow, that's a pretty good one. And the book we have in front of us is called Finding Color. It's book 1 in your Back in a Year series, which wasn't quite a year, was it? So, no. Why this book? Why this one, Finding Color? Why this book? Why is this the start of the series?
Yeah, so what I did wasn't unique. Other people have done it, people have traveled, people have done stuff, but I just felt that there was something in my travel that I wanted to share. So this is where I started writing these books. I'm an avid journaler. I'm a big self-proclaimed nerd as well. So I'm an avid journaler, and I started to write while I was traveling, and it was very healing. My mom had recently passed before I did this trip, and I just needed something. I needed something. I was looking for something. I just felt very empty. And Finding Color is the first book in the series. This whole series is 5 books based around this journey that I took traveling around the world. And I really thought, well, I didn't really think. I said I'd be back in a year, but I kind of knew I was fibbing when I said that to my family, because I think it just made everyone feel better. But it's kind of a real daunting prospect to say, I don't know when I'll be back, I'll see ya. So, but when I started writing, I thought, oh yeah, this is like one book. But once I got into it, and once I really understood my goal was for you, the reader, to dump you right into it, and you have the journey. You take the journey. You're sweating with the backpack, you're freezing, you're hungry, you're tired, you're embarrassed. You have all of that, and in order to do that, I needed a few more words than I anticipated. Right. So this kind of blew out to 5 parts. What I've done is divided them geographically. It's a linear story. I'm not, there's no sort of jumping back and forth. It's just what I wanted as well was for the reader to experience the trip. So you don't know what's coming, right? I didn't know what was coming. So what I wanted the reader to be surprised or scared or shocked, horrified, whatever experience was happening in that moment, and just to experience it, to experience the whole thing. And that's what this book series is.
Now, the first one, Finding Color, and I have to give you a rib for you having the U.S. spelling on there.
I know. You know what? That was a big debate. I just thought, heavens, which way am I going to go? And I had to commit to a side. And yeah, I picked the U.S., so I don't know. At the time, it seemed like the right thing, and now I'm kind of committed, so
Well, that's
I'm
fine.
in.
That's fine. But you do have a little Canadian flag on the cover with the cartoonish type character. I'll say a cartoon because it's a drawing of the
Yeah.
backpacker with the map open and the little Canadian flag. So, and
Mm-hmm.
actually, the way Finding Color is printed there, it's symmetrical because the F goes down to the outside of the C and the G goes down to the outside of the R, so it fits.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. It does.
the U will probably would have wrecked things. So good choice, Candace. Good choice. We appreciate that. So you just answered my question about what you hope the reader will get out of it is to share the adventure with you. Is that mainly it?
That's mainly it. I wanted to. I kind of, when I sat down and thought about it, I thought, okay, well, who is this for? Who's going to care about this? And I thought, it's for the people who took this kind of trip and didn't write it down. I've had loads of folks, email me, make comments saying, I did this trip, but I didn't have this, I had that. Like it fosters that conversation about spinning up memories for folks.
Mm-hmm.
The other people I did it for was for the people who wanted to take the trip but couldn't, and for whatever reason, and just to share that with them. And then also it's a flashback to a point in time. I'm very specific about my references, about music, movies, anything, even words that were used in that time period. I also wanted people to experience that time period before you had a phone with all of the answers right at your fingertips.
Yes.
When you had to find a phone card, to use a phone, to call someone, to see if they had a room, and if they weren't there, then you had to walk over and come back. And just see what a different experience it was traveling then versus traveling now. And I wanted the reader to just dive into that.
And you say there's 5 books in this series. Are they all available now, or how's that?
So book 1 and book 2 are out now.
Yeah.
Book 3 is coming out in the next couple of weeks. Book 1 it starts in Toronto, it goes to Greece, and then it has a lot of the UK, Scotland, Ireland. Well, the island's not in the UK, but Ireland separate, and England, and then Russia. That's book 1.
Oh.
And then book 2 travels picks right up where book 1 left off. It goes through the Baltics, Poland, it goes through Czech Republic, Austria, then you go down the coast of Croatia and Hungary. And book 3, which is coming out shortly, is also in Europe, but the lion's share of the book is in the Middle East, which is in Jordan, Israel, and Egypt. And that is just a whole different story again. So you get the immersion in the culture shock of showing up in these places and just trying to exist in these kind of environments on a really, really tight budget. My budget was $50 a day, and yeah, so there wasn't a lot of spare cash there. So a lot of different choices were made in terms of how to get around. So
now, do they have to be read in sequence, or people can pick them up and enjoy anyone anytime? Is that the idea?
Yeah. The idea was the sequence is there, absolutely. But if you just said, for example, book 4, which is coming out next year, that one's Africa. So if you just said, I just want to read about Africa, you can pick that book up and enjoy it. Each book stands on its own.
Right.
But they are a continuous adventure. Yeah, it was an interesting craft to learn in terms of how to not sort of wimp out and just make it a continuous, but to make each book its own robust story and can be enjoyed on their own. Yeah.
Wow. And I lost my train of thought. It got derailed halfway between Radisson and Saskatoon. Life is full of choices, some good, some not so much. Any choices over those years that you now regret?
Choices, regrets. One thing I do regret is but it's tough to say because I don't regret what happened. So when I left home, my initial plan was to go to Nepal. I really, 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 really desperately wanted to trek the Annapurna circuit, and I was so desperate. It was literally one of the only guidebooks I left home with. I, for different reasons, I decided to put Africa in instead. So I went to Africa instead of Asia. So I didn't get to Nepal in the end. And I always said, oh, I'm going to go back there. But it's kind of a younger person's trip. So I think that if I had one regret, it would be that I didn't tackle that.
Gotcha. And you said you were in the Balkans. Was it kind of a tumultuous time when you were in that area?
I was in the Baltics, so Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. They're very popular now. They're popping up in all kinds of movies and all kinds of spots. You know, you watch a Marvel movie, they're cruising through at Riga, or but back then when I went, they weren't real hot spots. So they were, so a challenge from the perspective of finding food. Locals were pretty miserable. I had a few laughs because on the money, even, well, back then they might be on euro now, the people were frowning on their money. Like, it was just frowns everywhere. Smiles were rare. So, and helpfulness was also rare. So just kind of cobbling yourself through. I would say, if I was to think about a dangerous place that I traveled to, when I went to Egypt, it probably, if, like, say, for example, if a man was going to Egypt, it wouldn't have been a problem. But women traveling in Egypt, I'm not sure if it's still the same today, was difficult. It was, the harassment level was high, and they would follow you and shout, and, it was a lot.
It was a lot. I can understand that. So you have... Right in the opening, you've got a content warning. Do you want to share that, or why did you have that in there? Content warning. You can read it. Parental grief, etc. Lots of hookups.
Yeah. Well, yes. So there is. I like to be quite frank about it, and different folks have different problems, right? So I've got profanity, consensual sexual content, parental grief, cheating, alcohol, smoking, and drug use. So so it's all, and each one has a different one. There's slightly worse things in each book, but so
Hey, I mean, but no, tell me, no, smoking. Oh my gosh, I'm shocked, I tell you.
I know, especially back then, right? But you said to me you like Netflix, and I take my cues of what needs to be alerted by the Netflix. When you first watch a show and it says in the corner, flashing lights, smoking, right. And someone said the F word 3 times, having to put that in there. So I got my cues from that and popped it on and thought, you know what?
Why not?
Nobody can be grumpy with me if they're not down with it, because it's in there.
That's right. A few more questions. Candace Macphie, Finding Color, first one in her Back in a Year series, book 1. This one is. How do you remember all of that stuff? You got 5 books worth of memories. I can hardly remember a grocery list.
Or what I had for breakfast.
Oh.
Yes.
I just had it, so.
You're still in the memory game. You can still remember. Well, I took journals. So yes. I am, like I said, a self-proclaimed nerd. I like to write everything down. That being said, when I actually looked at my journals, I don't know how much dudes journal, but like girls when we're younger, well, I always wrote journals that mostly full of crap. But and a lot of it was crap, but what it did do was spin up all of the things that happened in terms of, you know, I think about in the second book when we were on the train and we were sitting there on the train and three people came and joined our train car, and one guy looked exactly like Jesus, and then they were all wearing hemp wear with like hammer pants, and we had this whole conversation, and they were actually working on resurrecting Jesus in Croatia, and their master, he had been resurrected in other places, but they were waiting for him to show up in Croatia, and they said, they gave us their card and said, you know, call us for we do galactic healing over the phone, so any language it works, doesn't matter, give us a call. And you know, stuff, I've never met someone like that before.
Nope.
So stuff like that and experiences like that are all in my journal, so I was able to kind of pull those out and make them into, you know, string them all together, and so that you get this full experience, robust experience of the odd and wonderful people that I met along the way and the crazy experiences that happened as well.
As well, yes. So these are self-published, am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So tell us about that journey, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that's involved. Because I've done there.
Yeah.
I've been there as well. So.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Well, you know, I think first of all, word of encouragement. You know, if you can put together a nice little plan for a holiday or something, I think you can tackle this process. And for me, anything with a list I can get through. So I was quite specific on the steps that I needed to do, and just took them step by step, and didn't, you know, went through everything from the writing to finding the content editor to help all the different editors I needed to help, to the whole process in terms of self-publication. I think I had some, probably my one sort of biggest learning was formatting the inside of the book. For the first book, I hired someone to do that, and they did such a terrible job, and I got frustrated because I thought, you know, I know this content better than anyone, and then I'm getting someone else to, and they wouldn't pay as much attention. So I got a program to help me format my books. So that, and then I reformatted the first one, and then formatted the second one, and formatted the third one. It took me a day to format the third one. So when I got a quote from the first person, it was 4 weeks or something. So just, you're going to make mistakes, right? Yeah. And just going through and figuring it out. I was also very specific about the covers. Yeah. I wanted to, I treated, in my old life, I worked in the corporate world, and I'd hired over 100 people. So I kind of know how to interview, and I know what I like. So I leveraged a lot of my past skills to be able to put together this like interview to make sure that I had the right folks. And even with the covers, I was very specific about who I hired. I looked at their past work and went through and was very specific. I found a wonderful person who has the patience of a saint, and he went back and forth with me over and over again. And so I think it was daunting at first, and my husband's best advice was write down your steps, because it'll be a while before you do this again, so make sure you've got all of your steps. So that was helpful too, kind of having my own how-to guide that I wrote for myself at the end.
Gotcha. And where were they printed?
I printed them at Amazon. It was just how it worked for me. I'm sure there's other ways, but that's how I did it.
Oh, I didn't know they could do that kind of thing so readily. So, and that was relatively inexpensive?
Maybe half the price, or like a little less than half the price of what I'm charging for the books. It's not super cheap, but they did like I think the quality is good.
Yeah.
It's not, fancy silver pages painted around the outside or anything like that, but the quality of the paper is nice.
Yeah.
The outside's nice. It's bound well. Sometimes you get a book and it kind of, you open it up and it's a big disappointment, falls apart. None of that. The quality was there, and I was really pleased with how even the colors on the cover turned out.
Good. And it's Candace Macphie, book 1, Finding Color, we have with us. That's book 1, Back in the Year series. What's the second one called again, please?
Life Strikes Back.
Life Strikes Back. That's book 2 in the series. And just before we go, Candace, any tips or things you can pass along to people who are thinking of memoir writing?
I think what I didn't do initially was to put enough of myself on the page. I think the vulnerability has to be there, and there was times when I wanted to just punch past me and just go, "You're being a complete idiot," but I couldn't, to step away and not apply this brain to whatever time period you're talking about, and just to be true to how you were then. It makes for a much more compelling read.
But also you can't kind of, I don't think, get wrapped up in your own, "Oh, woe is me" story. People treated me so bad, and so that's why I had a bunch of drinks, and that's why I jumped off the pier and swam to Juan de Fuca Island or something. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, because I'm an idiot.
No.
So.
No, I think, you need to be, there's not like an out, you did it. So if you're not going to sort of step into it, then don't bother. Just, it doesn't read real. There's, I debated, there's a scene, like in Finding Color, the cheating part there, and I thought, I can't do this. And I thought, you know what? It happened. And I need to step into this because the character that this happened with was quite important. And I thought, okay, I was awful, and and it really made me almost ill to write it. But I thought, okay, well, if I don't, then I'm So there's choices you have to make. And also, as a memoir person, what I decided to do was if someone told me something about themselves, I did not put that in. I do have interactions with people and I react to what people said to me, but I did not. If someone confided something into me, that's not in there. They didn't sign up to that. Like that, if I choose to put my own story down, then that's my choice. But somebody else didn't line up for that. There are conversations where people said things, and I reacted, but I did not. That's where I drew the line. So I think you need to figure out it's about your journey, and just. There's a line that I don't know. I wasn't crossing. So.
Okay. Yeah. You have to be true to yourself, true to the story, but not necessarily hurt other people in the process, I guess. Yeah,
and it's hard not to, because some folks might go, that wasn't very nice. I'm like, okay, but it happens. So this is how it went. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, again, Candace, thank you very much for your Calgary time today. And so we'll let you get back to, stampede planning and roping and riding and, cooking over an open fire and making butter and washing clothes up down by the creek and all that prairie stuff.
Absolutely. You forgot about gathering the buffalo dung. That's the other thing.
Of course, yes. Buffalo chips.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.